Okay, welcome back everyone. We're here in the garage with the Honda CRF300LS, and the bike is up for the winter. However, today I figured would be a good day to go ahead and finally install this windshield, wind deflector. We'll go with windscreen on the bike today. Now, two quick things to get out of the way before we get started. First off, I've actually had this windscreen sitting on a box on the floor for about 7 months, and I just haven't installed it because, well, to be honest, I've been taking this bike mostly off-road, and I just didn't really feel like I needed this much wind protection. I wanted to keep my bike as simple and as light as possible, so I just didn't put it on. However, this coming year, I do have some bigger trips planned that are gonna involve some long highway stretches, and I can tell you, having done a few stretches like that at 75 miles per hour, without adequate wind protection, this bike does kind of toss you around pretty good. So I just figured, let's put this on, let's give it a try. Worst case scenario, it ends up being terrible and we just take it back off again. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that I don't have any paid partnerships or affiliations or sponsorships or anything like that. I just happened to buy this brand with my own money. This is T-Rex Racing brand. I do have their rear rack on the bike as well, but otherwise everything else on the bike is kind of just a mishmash of parts and manufacturers that I happen to buy with my own money. So all that is to say that hopefully this is an unbiased and honest opinion of both the install and the use of this windscreen. So let's get into it and get it on the bike. Okay, instructions. Now this is an important one because it is a pet peeve of mine. I watched some other videos on the install of this exact windscreen, and I saw many times where the person installing it ran into some trouble. And when I say that, I mean they were following the instructions and they went to go put it on as intended in the instruction by the manufacturer, and it didn't work. And they had to improvise and move things around a little bit, bolt it differently. And I gotta tell you, that really bothers me because I am definitely one for following the instructions, following the recipe, doing as the manufacturer intended. And when something doesn't work, it does irritate me. Now, I get that there's sometimes some lost in translation issues with instructions, especially if they're from overseas. I also get that sometimes a part, when it's in prototype, fits one way, and then once it gets manufactured, mass produced or whatever, some tolerances changes and things change. But I want to be able to follow the instructions. So what I'm trying to tell you is that we're going to do our best to follow these instructions, this one page of instructions for this part, and really try to get it installed as intended. Okay, so I've got the windscreen here, and what you can see is there are these 4 brackets. Now this is how it mounts the bike. Very simply, you've got 2 upper brackets, 2 lower brackets. Now the top ones, they just bolt right to the handlebars. So you unbolt the handlebar mounting stem, you put these on, you bolt it back down with the provided hardware. Easy peasy, right? It's these lower mounting bars that cause a problem. Now in the instructions, it's very specific. It shows these 2 mounting bars mounting to the top bolts in the front forks. However, other installers on YouTube have noted that didn't work for them and they had to install it on the lower bolt. Now that seems like a trivial thing, upper bolt, lower bolt, whatever. But again, that's not in the instructions and it really bothers me. So what I want to do here is I want to put this up on the bike and see if it looks like it's going to mount as intended. So let's get this around here. Now you can see these, you got the 2 bolts here on the front fork. It's supposed to mount to the top one, and then it's supposed to mount to the 2 handlebar mounts. So if I bring this in very crudely, to me, it looks like this will mount to the top bolt. Like it's already sitting on the top bolt right now. So that looks like it should work. You can see it's kind of sitting on that top bolt, and then these are just sort of sitting on the handlebars. Everything looks to be good. So it's got some nice height to it, kind of right up a little higher than my Adventure mirrors. Throw a leg over. I've got it up on the rear stand right now, so it's a little high, but I'm hoping that that deflects the wind over my helmet. I am gonna have to remove this little like cable guide here, so I'm gonna just do that now to kind of get it out of the way, and then we'll start with the handlebars. Okay, so this looks to be an 8mm. So there we go. This just slid down, it's just sitting there now. But now this gives me some space to work on that bolt. Okay, so I've never removed these before on the CRF, and it looks like they take a 12 mil, and this could be really on there. So I'm not quite sure. Oh, no, looks like they're gonna loosen right up. Well, that's convenient. I was expecting a very difficult and stubborn set of bolts, but it was surprisingly easy. Did not take much effort at all to get these off. So because the right side is still bolted down, we shouldn't have any movement in the handlebars. Gonna get out my handy dandy little magnetic cup here, set that on the back of the bike. Let's get this front one out. This looks like it might be a 10. Yeah, that's a 10. So again, we are going to go with the top, not the bottom, because that's what it says in the instructions. So here is the provided bolt, which is slightly longer than the factory one, which makes sense because you're adding a little bit of thickness there with the bracket and with the washer. This is the one that's supposed to go here, out and away, and I'm just gonna kind of hand tighten it. So very lightly tightened right now. You can see that I've got plenty of clearance here, which I was a little bit worried about. So it does clear the front little plastic deflector. I was worried it was gonna rub, but it looks like there's plenty of clearance there. Cool, let's get the front one on. Now the front one, I'm supposed to reuse the factory bolt, which was the 10. It has this piece going in like that, and this piece coming around like that. At least that's how it shows it. It's really hard to kind of get in here, so I'm gonna fast forward. All right, so I've managed to get this one bolted in with a little mini socket just because it was kind of hard to get in there. Just snug enough. Also, you can see there's plenty of clearance underneath. It's about, I don't know, 4 or 5 millimeters, so it's not gonna bang into the plastic. And also this here clears, you can see. So there's actually pretty good clearance. Just overall, it's nice. It doesn't obstruct the instrument panel at all. Let me go ahead and get this one off now, which is a 10. We're following the instructions. Just enough to keep it loose. Beautiful. It fits, sort of. It is on here. I don't have it bolted down yet. It's definitely snug, but I think I see why people bolt it down below, and let me show you why. There's a very big space between, I don't know if this is gonna get back there. You can kind of see it's really struggling to line up. And never mind too that this is kind of like kinked funny here so that this can kink downward. Whereas if it were on the lower bracket, I feel like it would just kind of come straight out. Same over here, you can see this is really like kinked up in order to be able to bend down to meet the bolt, as opposed to if it was just on the lower one, it would be more straight. So, I know I just got finished telling you all that I don't like not installing it as intended. But what I might do is just move one side to see if it makes it better. Boy, it really doesn't necessarily look a whole lot better. Tough call, man. So what I'm looking at is, even with this adjustment now, it's still a very harsh angle back here. You know, it's like it's just a little short or something. But also now here, there's no tolerance, there's no clearance. It's like essentially touching. So I don't like that at all. Given that the only reason I moved it down was because it looked like that was a harsh angle, and I still see that angle, I'm inclined to just move it back to its original position because that is how the instructions intend. So as much as I don't want to have to do unbolt and rebolt again, I think I am going to do that. I'm going to go back to its original design and we'll bolt it down in that fashion, and we'll see if everything can tighten up without putting too much strain on the plastic. And Let's do it. FYI, I've discovered this T-wrench works way better. So if you've got a T-wrench with a 10mm socket, definitely speeds up the process. Back in how we originally were, everything seems now to have space and tolerances and all that good stuff. We're not bumping into the handguard, we're not bumping into these wires, we're not bumping into our turn signal. Over here, everything also seems to be okay. We're not bumping into anything. This was the one right here that had me a little nervous, just because of how tight that angle was. But boy, that really did come in nicely. So yeah, that looks good. Wow, surprised. Okay, 15 foot-pounds. We are all installed. It's nice and solid. I'm just gonna go around it one more time to check for any loose bolts or anything. I did tighten up the cable guide on this side as well, so that's all done. And everything is torqued up as far as I know, but one last check. And then even though it's been winterized, I am gonna take it out for a quick spin just to see if it's making any funny noises or rattling funny or, you know, wobbling around in any way. But given how sturdy it feels, I think we're probably in pretty good shape. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, one quick walk around. As you can see, everything is bolted tight here. There's no movement at all in the windscreen. Everything over here is solid. There's no rubbing on the cables. This clears underneath. There's clearance here, all good. There's clearance here. We come around this side. There's clearance here, there's clearance here. Underneath, everything looks good. So, all right, we've got the new windshield on. Bike is fired up. It is still winter. You can see I've got an ice pile at the end of my driveway here. But all I want to do is kind of ride around the block and make sure that everything seems to be okay. I've got to get over this ice dam here. Okay, let's give it a whirl. Oh yeah, I can definitely tell that there's less wind. I can tell that it's hitting my helmet. So it's not quite clearing my helmet, but a lot less on my chest for sure. So this is good. This is really good. This is exactly what I was hoping for. Given the sort of highway driving that I'm going to be doing. Now I don't see anything hitting or bumping, or I don't hear anything rattling, so I think we're probably okay. Pick it up a little bit here. Oh wow, that is so much more smooth than standard. I can definitely still feel some wind like hitting under my armpits, kind of on the sides over here. But I do not feel anything hitting me right directly like in the chest anymore. Anyway, yeah, I would say that I am satisfied. I'm not getting any weirdness, and handlebars did not move, which is always a good thing. So at this point, I will keep my final judgment till later, but I think first impressions are good. All right, well thanks guys for following along here today. It was nice to get into the garage and play with the motorcycle a little bit today in the middle of winter here, even though we are still up for storage. So with that, I'm going to sign off, and if you've got any questions, feel free to drop them down below and I'll do my best to answer. But so far so good. T-Rex Racing Windshield. Take care everyone. See you in the next video. Bye.